Hey everybody, see if this works. My AirPods keep cutting out, so we'll see if it works. All right, let me see if I can add Susan. Hey Susan. So if you guys are jumping on, why don't you let me know your favorite airport? Mine currently is not DFW. All right, hold on. See. I just added her, so hold on. I think it's coming. No, hold on.
Oh, okay. I don't know if you can hear me. Hold on. My sound is not on. Oh, I'll be right back. Hold on. Okay.
Hey Susan. This is what you get for trying to do it in an airport. You're like there, but you're not there. Hold on, let me see if I can add you again. Sorry guys, technical difficulty. Hold on. I don't need sunglasses. Sorry. Can you tell it's been a long day?
Okay.
I don't need sunglasses. Hold on.
Yay!
There we go. Is that better?
Okay.
Oh, I can
you
hear
hear
you.
me?
Okay, good. Yeah.
Okay,
Better.
good. I had no sound before, so I was like, oh no.
Well,
So
I don't know what was
fixed
going on. I'm at the airport, so we're going to blame it on DFW. This is the worst
Yay!
airport.
It's so good to see
It's
you.
good to see you too. All right. So, yeah, thank you. All right. So I thought we'd dive into some big stuff.
Do it.
Yeah, I mean, so this week was chapters 4, 5, and 6. So friendship, and then grief and suffering, and managing the chaos. So light stuff.
Light and easy.
Yeah, light
How
and
we
easy.
roll.
So the reason that I asked Susan on here, if you guys don't know who Susan is, so I think that we met on the internet, right? Does that sound right?
Total
And
virtual friends.
I think maybe I found your blog because I found that you were a runner, and I thought that was really awesome because I'm not a runner, but I was trying to be a runner. And I think at that time we had the same number of kids, like because we got pregnant with kid number 6 about the same time.
Yeah.
And then I just
Who
invited
will
you to
be
stay at my
married.
house.
Yeah, that marriage has been arranged. So if you're listening to
That's
this
right.
and you have boys lined up for Gianna, back off.
Yeah, sorry, she's taken.
She's taken by Julie.
So I thought maybe we might start with friendship, Susan, and maybe talk about how friendships maybe start here in this digital space and then how they become life-giving in real life and maybe even life-giving online, because I know that's a struggle for a lot of us, is connecting with other women. So thoughts on that? What do you think about that?
Well, my thoughts on that are that I think that sometimes as moms, we feel kind of hunkered down in our devotion to our families. And if you're working outside the home, maybe you feel like you're plugged into work and you come home and you are with your kids. And it becomes hard to find time for friendships. And but we are connected online. And so we bump into people, if I can use that term, that have things in common with us, and we make these little connections. Because as women, I don't think it matters what realm we're in. We can make connections with other people, which is an awesome thing. And it's just really beautiful to see how those connections grow, even if it's just virtually, So I'm thankful. As much as Instagram and Facebook gets a bad rap, it is solely responsible for many of my great friendships. So I'm thankful for it. I really am. It makes you feel like you're not alone. in your daily grind, in your daily groove. You know, somebody out there
Yeah.
is walking the walk with you.
And I think you and I are in the same boat, and that our oldest boys are 18. So when we were baby mamas, none of this existed. And then
No.
when our little ones came around, this stuff showed up. And I remember looking on the internet and like finding hashtags or finding a blog and being like, oh my gosh, someone else
Yeah.
feels the way that I do. And hey, they live in Kansas. That's not that far away.
That's not too far. We're still Midwest. Yes.
It's close. Like I'm close to getting a direct flight. I don't know if I can get a direct flight from there, but I have to stop in DFW first and then I can get up there. But I think it made me feel not so isolated. And I know that was the case for me. Like when I was in the NICU and I was cut off from the world, social media like saved me. I think the balance is you have to recognize that sometimes you have to log off here to maybe make a deeper connection. I know you and I connect on Boxer and FaceTime and email and like all the other places, just individually. And I think that that's been really life-giving to me to be able to reach out to you directly and not just on a direct message, but like I think I called you one time when I had just screamed at one of my children. I think I was so mad at him I threw his watch out the window and I
Yes.
pulled off on the side of the road and I called you and I'm like, I'm losing my beep. And
I would understand.
I
With
knew
all
that you were
the
the only
boys
one
I
that
have, yeah.
I knew you would get it. And that was very life-giving to me. So what, like, if you could go back in time, like, what would be your best tip, I guess, for a young mom who feels like she's sort of drowning in kid stuff? Like, how does she find a good friend? Like, where does she go? What does she do? What would you tell her?
Well, I think it's important to find an authentic friend. And so it may seem kind of hard to do that in the big world of being online or whatever. But if you've exhausted your immediate circles, because sometimes, I don't know, sometimes it just is to make connections in the neighborhood or at your church or at school or whatever. But maybe finding somebody that has similar interests as you and kind of gets your groove will actually give you the confidence to go out and be that good friend one-on-one to someone else. So like for me, I feel like when I plug into the people that I know through social media, it actually bolsters me to want to go out and say, oh my gosh, there's someone in my neighborhood or there's someone in my church who needs a friend right now, like face to face, and being that person. Because I think it can be a tendency maybe to live our relationships virtually, and that's not what we're called to. And that's, the Lord wants us to go out and be his love to others in the flesh, one-on-one. So you moms that are hunkered down with your little ones, don't believe the lie that you're not needed, because you are. You're needed for your kids, but you're needed in your neighborhoods and in your schools too, not just to be busybodies and do all the things you're supposed to do, you think, to be a good mom, but to just be an authentic friend. That's a really important mission that we all have as women.
Yeah, and I think I made it a point to like go to a lot of different places so that I could meet a bunch of different people. Like we did library time. I met one really awesome mom in the grocery store line. We found out that our kids went to school together, but we met at HEB, which is our grocery store here in Texas. So I think we sometimes forget that in order to meet people, you have to leave your house. Like you can't
Yes.
just stay on your screen. And it's okay to look in other places besides church. Church is a good start, but I know that there are lots of beautiful friends that I've met that were not at church. And yeah, and I don't think someone commented, I find it hard because I'm afraid people will think that I'm a weirdo.
Weirdo. That's okay.
I guess that's how you weed out the wheat from the chaff, right? That's how
right.
you,
That's how you really find your friends,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think maybe how do you decide? I'll share mine in a minute. But how do you decide, Susan, like what to share with your friends and what to only share like with your spouse or with your own conversation with God? Like, how do you know, like, what's a sharing violation, I guess, when it comes to early friendship, and then as you go deeper, what would be your thoughts on that?
Well, That's a kind of a tough question, just because I think that as women, we're talkers and we like to share, and there's such a longing to be understood and to be recognized and to be known. Um, Sharing violations would definitely be talking about someone else, especially your spouse, um, just to run them down. But if you have the goal to understand what you should do in a situation, or how can I be a better spouse, a better mom, a better wife, a better friend, and give them the example of whatever your struggle is, I think that that's okay. But with a trusted friend, and you guys know who those friends are. You've got your inner circle, then you got your front porch people, and then you got people that you try to keep out on the lawn. You know,
That's a good analogy.
you got to just kind of know who those people are. But I'll just say this: your number one friend has to be Jesus. And if you're right with Jesus, then your other relationships will follow suit.
That's
With
a
that.
really good point. I mean, I think there have been times that I have really been struggling personally with Jesus, and I'm like, why are my friendships not working? Why are they not listening to me?
Yeah.
Where's the disconnect? And the disconnect is because, like, I got my priorities out of order, like my love order out of order.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a beautiful point, that you have to be in relationship with the person that made you. And then you
Yeah.
have to be in relationship with the person that you're in love with, which
Yeah.
is your spouse, if you're
Yeah.
married. And then you have to be in relationship with the people that can support you in your vocation.
Yeah. And I
So,
think you said this, Kathryn, that the person that you're confiding in or speaking to as a friend should point you back to Jesus, and should point you back to your spouse or to your children, or to going back into relationship with the people that you're struggling with, you know?
yeah.
And so that is really a measure, I think, of a good friend who listens, but then is always pointing you back to home, you know, which is the Lord. So
I think the challenge with women friendships is that we sometimes get a little catty, or we start to gossip, or we start to say things that they're just not very nice. And Sister Miriam James, who's on the Abiding Together podcast, said this in a talk that I heard her give in person, and I loved it. She said, if somebody says something about you that's bad, instead of going to that person, first go to Jesus and ask him if it's true. And I thought that was
that's
really
great.
a really beautiful place to start. So if someone says Kathryn's being, so uncharitable, or Kathryn is not being
Yeah.
very nice, then instead of me first getting mad at the person that said that, I'm going to go ask Jesus first. Like, in that situation, could I have been nicer, more charitable? And then, obviously if I wasn't, I need to deal with that. But if it isn't true, then I think that's an opportunity for you to heal a friendship, or to reach out, because usually when that happens, something else is brewing. And
Yeah.
hurting people hurt people. So,
That's right. That's right.
yeah, I think as women, we have to do a better job of encouraging and lifting each other up, instead of being like, oh, well, I'm so jealous that she did this, or I'm so jealous that she did that. Instead, be like, you know what? She's doing awesome things for the kingdom. I should be proud of her. I should be excited for her. And then I'm doing this thing that she can't do, and I'm living it, and I'm doing it really well. And I think that's just our own womanhood. The
Yeah.
curse sometimes of being a woman is that we place our value based on what we can do, and
Yeah.
how that compares to someone else. It's not always
Yes.
the case.
Yeah. I would say that, like, before I, when I first started having kids, and we didn't have social media and all this, I just remember going through my days when there's no, like, you're just, the culture of comparison was
Yeah.
kind of there, but not as heavy as it is now. And so I find that my thought processes during the day, back then, I didn't worry about so many things. Or I think the temptation even to be jealous, or to be whatever, that I didn't struggle with that. Whereas now, it's harder, because it's what is perceived on through social media or whatever is, you got to put that through a filter sometimes, because everybody has messy lives or whatnot. But yeah, I will say this too, that living with boys, so I have 7 sons, if you guys don't know me, and then my husband, so it's like 8 boys. they have really taught me the value of letting go as well. So when after they duke it out, they forgive, and they really forget. And as women, I think we hold grudges. So in addition to being cheerleaders for each other, I think we have to let stuff go and stop looking at the person that's hurt us and seeing their mistakes. Fresh starting it every time is such a grace that we can offer to others. And because don't we want that for ourselves? I mean, I have made mistakes in friendships and within family, and I sometimes approach these people that I've hurt, and I feel like, do they see the wrong that I did? So I have to start extending that grace to others and let them know, no, that's in the past, and begin again. And today's a new day, and be the kind of friend you want to have. Be that friend to yourself, be that friend to others. Because the world needs that from us women. I mean, it really does need it.
My grandpa used to say this. He used to say the thing, like, I'll come home and I'll be like venting about whatever is going on in my life with Scott. And he'll say, Kathryn, you know that person that you're venting about is at home enjoying their family. Like, they're not brewing over this. And my grandfather used to say that, and now Scott has adopted it. And sometimes men's perspective of just being like, we're going to shut that door and we're going to move on is really helpful. So it is helpful. I have 3 boys, so not quite as many as you do. Well, plus Scott, so 4.
Yeah.
But I've learned a lot from my boys as well of just letting it go and moving on. That's hard. All right, so let's talk a little bit about grief and suffering. And I'm going to change my arm because it's falling asleep, and I have nowhere to hold my phone. So I wrote in the book about grief and suffering. And we all have it. I had suffering, but I didn't really talk about grief until I was older, and it like smacked me in the face. But as I look back over these last 10 years, and certainly the last 5, when I really met grief and death and suffering face to face, I think the biggest lesson that I took from all of that is that I was leaning out instead of leaning in, because I was afraid that if I leaned in, that it was going to be harder. And while I think it temporarily was harder, it also was more freeing to lean in, because the more that I fought it, I don't know what analogy to make to that, but the more that I fought it, the worse it was. And finally, when I was like, if I'll just accept it, if I'll just be like, and it doesn't mean that there aren't hard days. The gift of prematurity is that it just keeps on giving. And so we've had some hard stuff come up with Luke, in the last few years. And I just think if I had just leaned in a little sooner, I might have been able to get over the hump of not being in control. And I would have been a lot faster to just give it to Jesus and say, okay, I'm here, now what? And I don't know. I know you have a unique perspective on suffering in your own family, Susan. I don't know. What do you think? What's been the biggest lesson of suffering for you personally and for your family?
Well, so if you guys don't know, my husband Steve has had Lyme disease, chronic Lyme, for 6 years, and some other autoimmune issues as well. And so that's brought a really different dynamic into our home. But I would say, for those of you, especially who are going through hard times, or I even have friends who say, I haven't really suffered, but I'm really afraid. It's that there's a special kind of intimacy that you can only experience with Christ through suffering. So the Christ on the cross, he draws us into himself through our personal suffering. And it doesn't have to be something enormous like what I'm going through or what Kathryn's been through with her son, but to lean into those hardships, and while we don't desire them because they hurt, we're human beings. We don't desire to hurt. Ask the Lord to widen your heart, because this situation, whatever situation you're in, it brings in this depth of intimacy with Jesus that you can experience in the good times. I'm just gonna put that out there. And really, women, allow that suffering to soften your heart. to be a tender place for others. I will say for sure that while I would never want my husband to be sick, the way that it's opened my eyes to be able to perceive the hurts of others and the sufferings of others, and to be a comfort to them, to be able to understand and listen, and to be just an avenue of comfort to them has been a privilege. And I thank God. I thank God for this period of suffering that we're in, because it just changes us, and it makes us hunger for heaven. I mean, Kathryn, don't you feel like you can really speak heaven to your family even, and in a different way that you can only share through on the side of suffering. And so I would say if you're going through a hard time within your family, like Kathryn said, lean into it and ask the Lord, how can I serve you through this? How can I love you more through this ache and through this hurt and through this hardship? And
I'd say don't try to carry that alone either.
No.
Sometimes we think, I know that when Luke, so for those of you that are new to the story, that he was born premature, and I think initially control freak, like type A kind of mom, I was like, I got this. Like, thanks for everyone's help, but we're good. And then I was like, I'm not good, and I actually need help. And that humbling of self was the greatest lesson that I learned from Luke, is that people really did. They wanted to help physically, tangibly, but they also wanted to pray for us. And when we go through really difficult things, I think you have to reach out to the people that you love and ask them to pray specifically for, the mission that you have, because it makes you feel so not alone. But it also, I think it's a song, it's called Rescue, and I cannot think of the gal that sings it. But anyway, she talks about, like, I'm going to send out an army basically for you. And that's what I think of when we're going through periods of suffering or grief. Like, I'm going to build up my prayer army, and I'm going to send them out for you. And so I think we have to recognize that we need other people. It's why we have the saints. It's why we have friends in our lives to pray for us. So,
and I want to don't you just want to give people permission to cuss it out? Because honestly, you guys, this is not time for hyper piety. Like, if you got to pound the pillow, cuss it out in the closet, whatever you have, be real. I think, like, being vulnerable, because I did try to carry in the beginning everything with Steve. I'm going to keep the kids together. We're going to keep on homeschooling. I'm going to stay up until 3 a.m. doing all the research. I'm going to heal my husband. And that was just a bunch of crap. I mean, and when I finally just let down, I mean, I had times where I was dropping my older kids off for school activities, and I looked like I'd been drugged through a rat hole backwards, and my eyes were swollen from crying. And when someone comes by the window, I finally just had to say, yeah, I look like this because I'm hurting. Life is hard right now. And I would just be amazed at how women their countenance would just be like, I'm sorry, what can I do? And letting yourself be loved in the hard time is really important. It's the body of Christ. I think it was St. Francis of Assisi who said the greatest act of humility is allowing yourself to be loved. And sometimes it is, I think, as moms and as women, we feel like we have to have it all together, but we need to share and be vulnerable when we're hurting, and allow people to love us, because I believe in the goodness of people. I think people want to love. They really do. I've seen that through your story, Kathryn, with Luke, the beautiful people who have come around you and loved you. So don't be afraid to let people in.
So my friend Carolina asks, how do you serve them when the illness is in you? First of all, I'll come see you, Carolina, when I get back in town on Wednesday. I know you've been through a lot. I think I have scoliosis. I had major back surgery. Like, I'm a hot mess. I've had a lot going on with me. And I think I had to recognize that I couldn't do all the things, but then I had to use those opportunities to say, this is really hard, so I'm going to offer this up for another friend, or I'm going to offer this up. And that was really hard. When you feel bad, it's hard to praise Jesus.
It is so hard.
It's really hard. Actually, whoops. As I stick my hand in my lunch, hold on one second. I was going to read this this prayer that I actually wrote in the book. By now I should have it memorized, but I don't. Hold on. So if you've read the book, it's actually towards the very back. It's page 131 if you're following along at home. A Dominican sister gave this to me, and I feel like it's worth reading because I think it has a lot to do with grief and suffering and just what's it all for? What does it all mean? So it says, the everlasting God has in his wisdom foreseen from eternity the cross that he now presents to you as a gift from his inmost heart. This cross he now sends you, he's considered with his all-knowing eyes, understood with his divine mind, tested with his wise justice, warmed with loving arms, and weighed with his own hands to see that it not be 1 inch too large and not 1 ounce too heavy for you. He's blessed it with his holy name, anointed it with his consolation, taken one last glance at you and your courage, and then sent it to you from heaven, a special greeting from God to you and alms of the all-merciful love of God. It's actually a prayer. It's called The Cross by St. Francis de Sales. That prayer saved me.
Try. Yeah.
That prayer is good. And I have been praying it a lot. That the opportunities that God gives you, like when he sends that to you, sometimes we feel like this is ridiculous and I go cuss it out in the closet. And then I lean in and then I ask for help. And then I read that and think it's a purification. It's a sanctification process. And being sanctified is not easy. It's hard. But on the other side of that, I think it helps you whenever your next cross or your next bout of suffering comes along, or when one of your good friends goes through that. My empathy level is like off the charts, which it never used to be that way before. And so I consider that a gift to be able to help walk people through hard things, and then to allow other people to walk me through hard things. It's all humbling, but it's all just filled with grace. So anyway, I just wanted to share that because I feel like, I don't know if everyone's going to buy the book. If you don't, just buy it for that, just because of that one prayer.
It's a prayer.
It's good. It's really, really good. So thanks, St. Francis de Sales, for doing that. So the last thing, I'm sitting here looking at the clock and looking at my boarding time. So the last, is there anything else? I don't want to cut you off. Is there anything else that you want to share about grief and suffering? Okay.
You're leading.
So this last chapter was about my obsession with order and how that was disordered. Yeah, we did that. We did a crazy whole house purge, but there was a lot that I learned through that. People were always asking me about, how do you organize your kids, or how do you organize shoes, or how do you do this? And so that was part of it, but part of it was also figuring out the order in which I placed relationships and the order in which I placed my love, and what role that played in my life. So that was a really hard chapter to write. It was sort of like the climax of the book, and then sort of like we were building to that point, and then it kind of dropped off. But practically speaking, Susan, what is the hardest thing for you to organize in your house? Like, you've got 7 boys. They're what? No, Benedict's not 19 yet. So 18 to 3. Is that right?
Well, I wish I could give you guys a tour of my house because it's a wreck. So, and I am, so my mom is full German and my dad is full Czech. So my mom is super clean and organized and neat, and my dad is like, let's drink beer. And so I like your dad. I got a good mix. I'm like 50-50. So I do love organization and cleanliness, but I will say that when we're talking about the order of charity and the order of priority, I have really had to learn to let things go, because I love things to be neat and ordered, because I feel like it's like the monastery, right? If there's order around you, then you can be more ordered interiorly, and I really believe that. But I've had to really let go since Steve has been sick, because I have to take care of first things first, and there's not a lot of time that I get to devote to organization. So, yeah, I mean, things are a mess, but I try to make sure we keep the kitchen and living area clean. So the rest of the house can be total dive, but I try to tell the boys, every person that comes to our home is Christ, and I would like for him to sit on a clean couch. The rest of the house is still.
That's good.
Have laundry. You guys, I'm just like you. I have laundry piled up.
Yeah.
I have there's clothes on the steps over here to the left I can see, and it generally smells, it usually
Boy.
stinks. It's gross, and there's clothes on my wall. So there's that. So, so it is kind of a letting go. But when I see the fruit of joy in the house, and I see Steve's needs being met and everyone's fed, then I have to sit back and say, grace for the moment, you know. I just was obedient to from minute to minute today, even if it looks like a train went through our house at the end of the day. So
yeah,
but I
mean,
do.
For me,
I covet your stories, Kathryn, and your home, and your inspiration, and your cleaning. It's
well,
beautiful.
in January, I'm going to do it again because having been gone so much this fall, I came in the house the other day. I'm like, it looks like a train. Well, I should clarify. It looked like a train wreck to me because I knew that there was so much just mess, and not just like things around, but just things undone, like things that I had not tackled, or balls that had gotten dropped. So it was just a tangible reminder that when you serve one place, something else suffers. And so right now it's been like the physicality of the house has suffered, and it's fine. Everyone's eating, everyone's alive, everyone's happy. That's the point. I'm the same way. Kitchen has to be, like, if I have the kitchen cleaned and I have the living room picked up, it doesn't have to be dusted, it just has to be picked up. Then I feel like I'm good. As a matter of fact, I haven't been up to see the kids' room probably in 2 weeks. I just decided I can't deal, so I just haven't gone upstairs.
Just gonna let that one go. Yeah, I know.
So I let that go, and I figure in another week or so we'll get up there and like we'll actually clean. I don't even know when the last time was that the house got cleaned. Like, I don't know when we cleaned toilets, maybe 4 weeks ago. I don't know. It's terrible. So it is what it is. And I think that once I figured out how to order, like, what I could live with and what I couldn't live with, and then once the family felt that way, because some of my kids are hyper organized and some of them are complete and total, like they could audition for hoarders. So I'm not going to mention which kid that is.
Right.
But that one could audition for hoarders. So we have to find a balance of what are my expectations so that we can function, but how do I teach them that it's important to take care of the things, you know, that the physical things that people have given you, or that we have given you. How do you care for that? Because when you learn to care for that, then you learn to care for yourself. So it's a balance. I'm not trying to get my kids to be, I'm the daughter of an army man, so a little bit of order.
Yeah. Right.
A little bit of order.
It is a teaching. You know, I have to remember that too, because I think as women, like, we have the eye for the end goal, but they don't. Kids have they're thinking about other things. And so we have to have quality teaching moments with them. And then just, it's a constant reminding of, you know, of, you said stewardship. And for me, it's telling my kids, it's selfish for you to expect others to put up with your mess. But I know that you're not a selfish person. You're generous and loving. And so I just need you to show that a little bit more around here. And they usually get on top of things. But it seems like if I teach it the cleanliness in a formative way, instead of just that the goal here is that I have a sparkling environment, you know, for myself, then they kind of benefit from that. Because my oldest one, who's in college now, he's in a fraternity and they do all house clean. And he was like telling his fraternity brothers, this is not a big deal. I've been doing this since I was 7. Get over it. Let's just get it done. And I was like, that's awesome, Ben, you know, but it takes that, you just got to keep doing it. You know, that's why we have wine, so that we can just, or Dos Equis, right? So we can
I'm laughing because Will's the same way. So our oldest is at Texas A&M. He's in the Corps Cadets, which is like the ROTC program. They have room inspection every morning. So he has to like wipe things down. And he was not the cleanest kid when he was at home. So I'm finding great joy in knowing that, and he knows how to do it. So they were like, how do you know how to do that? He's like, well, because my mom used to make me do it, but now I have to do it, or I have to do push-ups. So it's pretty awesome. Yeah,
we make
pretty
our kids
awesome.
push-ups. Oh, yeah.
I've just outsourced that to 19-year-olds who are a year older than him, making him clean his room. So it's pretty great. All right, well, I'm sitting here looking at the clock. I should probably go get on an airplane to go to Memphis here in a few minutes. I know, it'll be great. So next week we'll be back on here. I'll be back on here at probably 1. I tried to do 1 today, and then I was like, I think I'm going to be in the air over like Tennessee. I don't think that's going to work. I don't think Wi-Fi works with Instagram on American. So anyway, thank you so much, Susan, for joining me. I wish you were sitting like
Me
at
too.
this table.
Me
I
too.
miss you.
I miss you too. I wish I could hug you. I'm giving you a virtual hug.
Same,
I'm coming
Mama.
to see you. I'm coming to see you when the tour's over post-holiday. I'm looking forward to it.
I can't wait. Just one last thing that I want to share with people. When I shared the story about you in the book, it was beautiful for me to be able to share the beauty of this space and what it can turn into, and to let people know that no matter where you make your connections, it's important to make a heart connection with someone. And I feel like you've been that with me. So you are such a dear friend, and I was so grateful that now you're immortalized forever in the book.
I love
And
it.
but more importantly, a deep and excellent friend to me. So thank you for that, and
Thank
thanks for
you.
taking time out of your day for today.
Oh, I loved it. I loved it. Thank you, Kathryn. Safe travels. I'll be praying
Thank you.
for you.
Thank you. All right, y'all. Thanks for joining us. See y'all next week.
Bye.